Stop trading your peace for someone's half-love. Your life does not shrink because someone walked away. Some people do not want your heart. They only want your comfort. They want your energy, your softness, your patience, and your willingness to forgive. But they never intend to protect you. And the hardest truth you may ever face is this: you might spend years calling it devotion when really it is just you being too afraid to put yourself first. Have you ever felt that? That heavy feeling in your chest where you keep showing up for someone who barely notices you are there. You keep giving and giving and giving, and all you get back is silence, distance, or half-hearted effort that disappears the moment you stop chasing. Be honest with yourself for a second. How many nights have you stayed awake, staring at your phone, waiting for one reply? How many mornings have you woken up with that sinking feeling because they still have not reached out? How many times have you rehearsed conversations in your head, trying to find the perfect words to make someone finally understand how much they are hurting you? And here is what nobody tells you. While you are sitting there waiting for them to change, your own life is quietly slipping through your fingers. Your laughter becomes rarer. Your confidence becomes thinner. Your sense of self becomes something you barely recognize in the mirror. So today, I need you to stop asking the wrong question. Stop asking, why do they not love me the way I deserve? Start asking, when did I stop loving myself enough to stay here? Has that question ever crossed your mind? Because your life, this one, irreplaceable life, is far too valuable to spend begging for scraps of affection from someone who has a full plate and still chooses not to share it with you. And the very second you decide your own worth is no longer up for negotiation, the wrong kind of love loses every ounce of power it ever had over you. Let us talk about that. Let us talk about what it really means to stop settling and start choosing yourself. Part 1. Stop trading your peace for someone's half-love. Love was never supposed to feel like a job interview where you keep proving your qualifications and still do not get hired. You were never meant to audition for someone's affection. You were never meant to shrink yourself down, swallow your needs, and pretend you are fine with breadcrumbs just because you are terrified of the alternative. Think about it. When was the last time you asked someone for basic respect and felt like you were being unreasonable? When was the last time you needed a simple conversation and the other person made you feel like you were asking for the moon? If someone genuinely values you, you will never have to wonder where you stand. You will never have to decode their silence. You will never have to chase them down just to receive a fraction of what you have been freely giving them all along. But when you start trading your peace for someone's inconsistent love, something shifts inside you. It is subtle at first. You start monitoring their mood before you express your own feelings. You start editing yourself, your words, your needs, your emotions, just to avoid rocking the boat. You start interpreting their coldness as something you caused. You start believing that if you were just a little better, a little more patient, a little less needy, maybe they would finally choose you properly. Can you relate to that? That exhausting cycle of adjusting yourself to fit someone else's comfort zone while your own comfort zone shrinks smaller and smaller. Here's what I want you to hear clearly. Sometimes the issue has absolutely nothing to do with your value. Sometimes You are simply handing your heart to a person who lacks the capacity to handle it with care. That does not make you foolish. It makes you human. But recognizing it, truly seeing it for what it is, that is where your freedom begins. Genuine love brings you calm, not chaos. It makes you feel anchored, not anxious. It makes you feel seen, not invisible. It makes you feel honored, not humiliated. So I am asking you right now, are you at peace in the love you are holding on to? Or are you just terrified of what happens if you let it go? Because here's the thing, most people will not say out loud. Letting go of the wrong love does not leave you with nothing. It leaves you with yourself. And that is not nothing. That is everything. Stop negotiating for what should be offered freely. Stop stretching yourself thin for people who would not bend even slightly for you. Stop treating your own needs like they are optional extras in a relationship where you have been the main provider of everything. The love that is truly meant for you will never demand that you sacrifice your self-respect just to feel wanted. It will never make you wonder if you matter. It will never leave you exhausted from trying to prove you are enough. And until that love arrives, guard your peace like it is the most precious thing you own, because it is. Part 2. Your life does not shrink because someone walked away. Now let me ask you something that might sting a little. Have you ever let one person's absence become the entire soundtrack of your life? Have you ever given someone so much real estate in your heart that when they moved out, you forgot the whole house was still standing? I think most of us have been there at some point. That place where one person leaving makes the entire world feel muted. The food does not taste the same. The music does not hit the same. The mornings feel heavier. The nights feel longer. And you start telling yourself this story that your life has somehow become less meaningful because one chapter ended. But here is what I need you to understand. And I mean really let this sink in. Their departure did not subtract from your worth. It simply revealed that their role in your story had reached its final page. That is not a tragedy. That is how life works. People enter, people shape us, people leave. But the story, your story, it keeps going. You still have ambitions you have not pursued. You still have places that are waiting for your footsteps. You still have a version of yourself that you have not met yet. A stronger, wiser, more peaceful version that can only emerge once you stop pouring all your energy into mourning what left. Has anyone ever told you that? That the person you are becoming might actually need that empty space? That sometimes the universe clears a seat at your table not to punish you, but to make room for something your current self cannot even imagine yet. You are allowed to grieve. You are allowed to miss what was. You are allowed to sit with the ache of someone's absence and honor what they meant to you. But you are not allowed to stop living because of it. You are not allowed to pause your entire existence because one person pressed stop on theirs. Missing someone and moving forward are not opposites. They can exist in the same breath. You can carry the memory of someone in your heart and still walk toward a future they are not part of. You can feel the weight of their absence and still choose to build something beautiful in the space they left behind. Your life is not a waiting room. It is not a place where you sit until someone decides to come back and validate your existence. Your life is happening right now, in this very moment, whether they are watching or not, whether they care or not, whether they ever come back or not. So stop making one missing person the excuse you use to abandon your own journey. Stop letting their silence become your silence. Stop letting their choice to leave become your choice to stop living. You are still here. Your dreams are still here. Your potential is still here. Your capacity to experience joy, connection, growth, and peace. All of it is still here. And the most beautiful part, you do not need their permission to access any of it. You never did. Let me tell you something that took me a long time to learn. The people who are meant to stay in your life do not make you question whether life is worth living without them. They add color to your world, yes, but they do not hold the only paintbrush. You have always had one in your own hand. You just forgot how to use it because you were too busy painting their portrait. Pick up that brush. Start painting your own life again, not because they left, but because you deserve a masterpiece, and nobody else can create yours for you. Your life was full before they came. It felt different, maybe. It looked different, certainly, but it was full, and it can be full again. Not the same kind of full, a different kind, a kind that comes from knowing that you survived something you thought would break you, and you are still standing. That kind of fullness, nobody can take it away, because it does not depend on anyone showing up. It depends entirely on you refusing to disappear. So, has this ever happened to you? Have you ever lost someone and then slowly realized that you had also lost yourself in the process? And if so, are you ready to find yourself again? Not the version of you that existed inside their love, but the version that exists on your own terms. Because that version is still in there, waiting, patient, ready. All you have to do is choose to come back to yourself. Respect yourself before you expect others to. The power of learning to be your own home. Part 3. Respect yourself before you expect others to. Let me ask you a question that might make you uncomfortable. How do you treat yourself when nobody is watching? Not the version of you that shows up for other people, not the version that smiles through pain, because you do not want to be a burden. I mean the real you, the one who looks in the mirror at the end of a long day, the one who talks to themselves inside their own head, the one who decides moment by moment what they are willing to tolerate from the world around them. Because here is a truth that changed everything for me, and I think it might change something for you too. The way you treat yourself is basically a blueprint you hand to everyone you meet. It is an unspoken instruction manual, and people read it. They might not do it consciously, but they read it. If you keep accepting disrespect without flinching, people learn that disrespect is something you can absorb. If you keep swallowing your own feelings to make space for someone else's comfort, people learn that your emotions are negotiable. If you keep staying in rooms where you are treated like furniture, present but unimportant, people learn that you will always be there, no matter how they act. Does that hit close to home? Have you ever looked back at a situation and realized that the reason someone treated you a certain way was not because you deserved it, but because you had been quietly teaching them that it was acceptable? That is not blame. I am not saying it is your fault when someone treats you poorly. Their behavior belongs to them. But your response, your willingness to stay, to absorb, to forgive without change, to keep the door wide open for people who keep tracking mud through your life. That part belongs to you. Respecting yourself is not a single dramatic moment. It is not one big speech where you tell everyone off and walk away in slow motion. It is quieter than that. It is smaller. And honestly, it is harder. Respecting yourself means recognizing that your time has weight, your energy has limits, your love has value, and your inner peace is not a renewable resource that people can drain whenever they feel like it and expect you to refill by morning. It means you stop pouring yourself into people who hand you back an empty cup and act like they did you a favor by holding it. It means you stop chasing after those who make you feel like you are running a race you were never going to win. It means you stop auditioning for roles in people's lives when they have already cast someone else. Or worse, when they have decided the role does not even exist. Have you ever been in that position where you kept showing up, kept proving yourself, kept being the most consistent person in someone's life, and they still treated you like an option, like a backup plan, like someone they would get around to appreciating eventually, but not today, not right now, maybe later? That feeling, that slow, grinding erosion of your own self-worth, is what happens when you ask others to value you before you have valued yourself. So here is what valuing yourself actually looks like in practice. It looks like not responding to that message at 2 a.m. from someone who ignored you all day. It looks like not canceling your own plans because someone suddenly decided you are worth their time. It looks like not explaining for the 15th time why their words hurt you, because if they needed 15 explanations, they were never really listening. It looks like sitting with the discomfort of being misunderstood rather than twisting yourself into shapes just to be accepted. It looks like choosing loneliness over a connection that makes you feel lonelier than being alone ever could. And I know what you might be thinking right now. But what if I set boundaries and they leave? What if I start respecting myself and I end up with nobody? Can I be honest with you? If respecting yourself causes someone to leave, they were not staying for you. They were staying for the version of you that made their life convenient. They were staying for the version that never pushed back, never asked for more, never held them accountable. And that version of you, it was never really living anyway. It was just surviving inside someone else's terms and conditions. When you genuinely respect yourself, something shifts in the atmosphere around you. You stop radiating desperation. You stop sending out signals that say, "Please validate me. Please choose me. Please tell me I am enough." And instead, you start carrying yourself like someone who already knows, someone who does not need external confirmation to feel worthy, someone who walks into a room not asking to be noticed, but simply being present, fully, unapologetically present. And the people who belong in your life, they will recognize that energy. They will not be intimidated by your standards. They will not be threatened by your boundaries. They will not call you difficult for knowing what you deserve. They will meet you there. They will match your effort. They will treat your heart like something worth protecting, not because you beg them to, but because your own behavior already demonstrated that you would never accept anything less. So before you spend another day wondering why people do not treat you the way you want to be treated, take an honest look at how you have been treating yourself. Are you guarding your peace or giving it away for free? Are you honoring your needs or burying them under everyone else's? Are you speaking to yourself with kindness or tearing yourself apart with the same criticism you would never tolerate from a stranger? Your relationship with yourself is the foundation every other relationship is built on. If that foundation is cracked, if you do not trust yourself, do not respect yourself, do not believe you are worthy of care, then everything built on top of it will eventually collapse. No matter how beautiful it looks from the outside, fix the foundation first. Treat yourself like someone who matters. Protect your energy like it is limited, because it is. Set standards for your life and refuse to apologize for them. And watch how differently the world begins to treat you when you stop treating yourself like an afterthought. Part 4. The Power of Learning to Be Your Own Home. Now, I want to talk about something that terrifies most people, but has the potential to completely transform your life. Being alone, not lonely, alone. There is a massive difference, and most people never learn it because they spend their entire lives running from the silence. Have you ever noticed how uncomfortable it feels to just sit with yourself? No phone, no distractions, no background noise filling the space, just you and your own thoughts and the sound of your own breathing. For most people, that feels like punishment. It feels like something went wrong. It feels like evidence that they are unwanted, forgotten, or left behind. But what if I told you that learning to sit comfortably in your own presence is one of the most revolutionary things you will ever do? Think about how most people operate. They wake up and immediately reach for their phone. They check who messaged them. They scroll through other people's lives. They measure their morning by how much attention they received overnight. And if the notifications are empty, the day already feels heavy before it has even started. Does that sound familiar? Have you ever had a morning like that, where the absence of one message from one person had the power to ruin your entire day before you even got out of bed? That is what happens when you have never learned to be your own home. Your emotional address is permanently set to someone else's location. When they are present, you feel grounded. When they are absent, you feel like you are floating with nothing to hold on to. When they are warm, your world feels stable. When they are cold, everything inside you starts shaking. You have essentially outsourced your entire sense of security to another human being. And human beings, no matter how wonderful they are, were never designed to be your entire foundation. That is too much weight for any one person to carry, and it is too much power for any one person to hold over you. So how do you take that power back? How do you become someone who enjoys their own company instead of dreading it? It starts with small, intentional moments, and I mean genuinely small, not some grand spiritual transformation, not a week-long silent retreat in the mountains, just simple, daily acts of being present with yourself. Take a walk without your earbuds in. Just walk. Feel the ground beneath your feet. Notice the sky. Notice how the air feels on your skin. Notice that you are alive and moving through the world under your own power, not because someone invited you, not because someone is waiting for you, but because you chose to move. Sit with a cup of coffee or tea and do nothing else. Do not check your phone. Do not plan your day. Do not replay yesterday's conversation in your head. Just sit there and drink it slowly. Taste it. Feel the warmth. Let the moment be enough. Let yourself be enough to fill that moment. Have you ever tried that? Just being present without needing anything external to justify the moment? It feels strange at first, almost wrong. Like you should be doing something productive or connecting with someone or fixing something. But that restlessness, that is not a sign that you need other people. That is a sign that you have forgotten how to be with yourself. And forgetting is not permanent. You can relearn. Start writing your thoughts down, not for anyone else to read, not to post online, just for you. Put the mess inside your head onto paper and watch how it starts to untangle. Write about what hurts. Write about what you want. Write about who you are becoming. Write about the person you were before you started losing yourself in other people's opinions and attention. Start taking care of your space. Clean your room. Open the curtains. Let light in. Organize the small things. Your external environment is a mirror of your internal state, and sometimes the simplest way to start feeling better inside is to create order around you. Start moving your body, not to look a certain way, not to impress anyone. Move because your body is the only place you truly live, and it deserves to feel strong. Walk, stretch, dance in your kitchen at midnight if that is what makes you feel alive. Just move. Remind your body that it is not just a vessel for carrying emotional pain. It is also capable of feeling good. And here is what happens when you start doing these things consistently. Slowly, not overnight, not in a week, but slowly, you begin to realize something profound. You are not empty without other people. You were just so used to filling yourself with their presence that you forgot you had your own substance all along. You start waking up, and the first thing you feel is not anxiety about who texted you. The first thing you feel is a quiet sense of, I am here, I am okay. This day belongs to me. You stop accepting wrong people into your life just because their presence fills a gap you were too afraid to face. You stop staying in painful situations because the alternative, silence, used to scare you. You stop performing for attention from people who only notice you when you are useful to them. You begin to understand something that most people never grasp. Being alone with peace is infinitely better than being with someone who makes your soul feel exhausted. Silence with self-respect is infinitely more valuable than noise filled with confusion and disrespect. Now, let me be clear about something. This is not about becoming a hermit. This is not about rejecting love or connection or intimacy. Everybody needs those things. We are wired for them. We are built to love and be loved. That does not change. What changes is where you are operating from. When you enjoy your own presence, you stop choosing people from a place of desperation. You start choosing them from a place of wholeness. You do not attach yourself to someone because you are terrified of the void they might leave. You connect with someone because they genuinely add something beautiful to a life that was already meaningful. That is a completely different kind of relationship. One built on want, not need, on choice, not fear, on respect, not dependency, on peace, not panic. And when you reach that point, when you can sit alone in a quiet room and feel genuinely okay, genuinely content, genuinely at home inside your own skin, you become untouchable in the most beautiful way. Not cold, not closed off, not guarded to the point of isolation, just grounded, rooted in yourself so deeply that no storm of rejection, no drought of attention, no earthquake of abandonment can uproot you. Have you ever met someone like that? Someone who is warm and open and loving, but you can tell that their happiness does not depend on you? There is something magnetic about that kind of person, something safe. You feel it immediately. They are not going to cling to you. They are not going to drain you. They are not going to fall apart if you need space. They are whole, and their wholeness gives you permission to be whole too. That is the person you are becoming, not overnight, not without struggle, but step by step, choice by choice, quiet morning by quiet morning. You are becoming someone whose peace does not depend on a single other human being's decision to stay or leave. And when you get there, when your own presence finally starts feeling like home, you will look back at all those nights you spent desperate for someone's attention, and you will feel something unexpected. Not anger, not bitterness, compassion. Compassion for the version of you that did not know any better, the version that thought love meant needing someone so badly it hurt, the version that confused attachment with connection and desperation with devotion. You will hold that version of yourself gently and say, I understand why you held on, but we do not live there anymore. And that, right there, is freedom. So let me ask you one more time. When was the last time you genuinely enjoyed your own company? When was the last time you spent an evening alone and felt peaceful instead of panicked? When was the last time you looked at your own life and thought, this is enough. I am enough. Right here, right now, without anyone else completing the picture, I am enough. If you cannot remember, that is okay. That does not mean it is impossible. It just means you have not practiced it yet. And like anything worth having, it takes practice. It takes patience. It takes showing up for yourself again and again, even when every instinct in your body is screaming at you to reach for your phone and text that person who never texted you first. Resist. Stay. Sit with yourself. Breathe through the discomfort and trust that on the other side of that discomfort is a version of you that no longer needs anyone else to feel whole. That version is waiting for you, and they are worth meeting. Part 5. Stop defending your worth to people who choose to be blind. There is a moment in every person's life, and maybe you have already reached it, maybe you are standing right at the edge of it, where you realize that no amount of words will ever be enough for someone who has already made up their mind about you. You can speak with perfect clarity. You can lay your feelings out like a map, pointing to every wound, every disappointment, every moment that cracked something inside you. You can be calm. You can be patient. You can choose every word with surgical precision, and still, the person standing in front of you will look at that map and pretend they cannot read it. Has that ever happened to you? You poured your heart out to someone, you told them exactly how their actions affected you, and they responded as if you were speaking a language they had never heard before, as if your pain was background noise, as if your feelings were an inconvenience they had to sit through before going right back to doing the same thing that hurt you in the first place. That moment, that specific, gut-wrenching moment, is not a communication problem. It is not because your words were not good enough. It is not because you failed to explain yourself clearly. It is because their heart was never open to receiving what you were offering. and no dictionary in the world has enough words to unlock a door that someone has chosen to keep bolted from the inside. I need you to really sit with that, because so many of us, and I am including myself here, have wasted months, sometimes years, sometimes entire chapters of our lives trying to find the perfect combination of words that will finally make someone see us, finally make someone understand, finally make someone say, "You are right. I see your worth now. I see what I have been doing. I will change." And we keep searching for those magic words because the alternative is terrifying. The alternative is accepting that some people are not blind by accident. Some people choose not to see you, and they choose it deliberately, consistently, and without apology. That is a painful thing to accept. I know. Believe me, I know. But let me ask you something. How much of your life have you already spent in that courtroom, standing there, presenting your case, gathering evidence of your loyalty, your honesty, your effort, your love, and submitting it to a judge who decided the verdict before the trial even started? Think about how exhausting that is. You are essentially putting your own heart on trial, day after day, conversation after conversation. You are the defendant, the lawyer, and the witness all at once. You are trying to prove to someone that you deserve basic respect, basic honesty, basic love, things that should never require a legal argument in the first place. And what does the other person do? They sit there, arms crossed, finding flaws in your case. They twist your words. They bring up something you did 3 years ago to deflect from what they did yesterday. They call you too sensitive when you express pain. They call you dramatic when you set a boundary. They call you needy when you ask for the bare minimum of what any human being should receive from someone who claims to care about them. Does any of this sound familiar? Because if it does, I need you to hear what I am about to say very carefully. You were never supposed to be a lawyer for your own worth. Your value is not a case that needs to be argued. Your heart is not a piece of evidence that needs to be submitted for review. Your feelings are not a testimony that needs to be cross-examined by someone who benefits from finding you guilty. You are worthy, period, end of sentence. No closing arguments needed. But here's where it gets complicated, right? Because knowing your worth intellectually and feeling it emotionally are two completely different things. You can read every self-help book on the planet. You can write affirmations on your mirror. You can nod along to every motivational speech. But if you are still going back to that same person, still explaining, still hoping, still presenting new evidence to the same closed court, then somewhere deep inside you have not fully accepted your own verdict yet. And that is okay. That does not make you weak. It makes you someone who loved deeply enough to keep trying. But at some point, and I think that point might be now, you have to ask yourself a brutal question. Am I still explaining because I believe they can change? Or am I still explaining because I am afraid of what it means if I stop? Because stopping is terrifying. When you stop explaining yourself to someone, you are essentially admitting that the relationship, in its current form, cannot give you what you need. You are admitting that all your effort, all your patience, all your vulnerability was not enough to change the outcome. And that feels like failure. But it is not failure. Let me tell you what it actually is. It is the bravest form of self-preservation. It is you finally choosing your own peace over the exhausting, never-ending project of trying to renovate someone else's perception of you? Think about it this way. Have you ever tried to convince someone that the sky is blue while they are insisting it is green? At first, you point up. You show them. You explain the science. You bring in outside opinions. You take photographs. And they just keep saying, no, it is green. At what point do you stop arguing and accept that the problem is not the sky? The problem is that they have decided they do not want to see what you see. That is exactly what happens when you keep defending your worth to someone who refuses to acknowledge it. You are not dealing with a misunderstanding. You are dealing with a decision. Their decision, and no matter how many times you rephrase, re-explain, or represent your case, a decision is not the same as a misunderstanding. A misunderstanding can be cleared up with better communication. A decision can only be changed by the person who made it, and that person is not you. So, what do you do with that? What do you do when you finally accept that someone you care about has decided, consciously or unconsciously, that your feelings are not a priority? You do the hardest thing you will ever do. You close your mouth. You put down the evidence. You step away from the witness stand, and you walk out of that courtroom with your dignity intact. And here is what most people do not tell you about that walk. It is going to feel horrible at first. You are going to feel unfinished. You are going to feel like there is one more thing you could have said, one more conversation you could have had, one more angle you could have tried. Your brain is going to replay every exchange and whisper, maybe if you had said it differently. But that voice, that is not wisdom. That is attachment disguised as hope. That is your wounded heart trying to drag you back into a game that was rigged from the start. A game where you keep playing and they keep changing the rules. A game where you keep scoring points, but the scoreboard never updates in your favor. You have to recognize when you are being kept in a cycle. Some people do not want you to stop explaining because your explanations give them a strange kind of power. As long as you are still talking, still trying, still showing up with your heart in your hands, they know you have not left. They know they still have access. They know they can keep treating you however they want because you will always come back with another paragraph, another tearful conversation, another attempt to make them understand. But the moment you go silent, the moment you stop performing your pain for an audience that never buys a ticket but always takes the front seat, that is when the dynamic shifts. That is when you reclaim every ounce of power you have been hemorrhaging into a one-sided conversation. Silence, in this context, is not passive. It is not giving up. It is not running away. It is the loudest statement you can make without saying a single word. It says, I have finally realized that my peace matters more than your understanding. It says, I am no longer willing to audition for a role you never intended to cast me in. It says, you had enough evidence to treat me better. You simply chose not to. Have you ever experienced the power of choosing silence over explanation? That moment where you write the message, you read it over, and then you delete it. Not because you do not have the words, but because you finally understand that words were never the problem. That kind of restraint does not come naturally. Every fiber of your being wants to be heard. Every cell in your body is screaming, but they need to know how I feel. And yes, maybe they do, but they already know. Deep down, they know. You have told them, probably multiple times, in multiple ways, with tears and with calm, with anger and with softness, with long messages and with short ones. They know. They just do not care enough to change. And that is their loss, not yours. So here is what I want you to do. I want you to release yourself from the obligation of being understood by everyone. Not everyone is going to get you. Not everyone is going to appreciate you. Not everyone is going to recognize the depth of what you bring to the table. And that is not a reflection of your value. It is a reflection of their vision. Some people can only see what they want to see. If someone is determined to see your flaws but never your effort, that is a choice they are making. If someone remembers every mistake you made but conveniently forgets every time you showed up for them, that is selective memory, serving a specific purpose. If someone only acknowledges your worth when you are halfway out the door, that is manipulation, wearing a mask of affection. You do not owe these people a single additional explanation. You do not owe them another late-night conversation where you lay yourself bare and they respond with indifference or deflection. You do not owe them another chance to show you that they are capable of being different when every chance before this one ended exactly the same way. What you owe, the only debt that matters here, is to yourself. You owe yourself the dignity of walking away from conversations that go in circles. You owe yourself the peace of not reopening wounds just because someone knocked on a door. You owe yourself the self-respect of knowing when enough truly is enough. And let me address the fear that comes with this, because I know it is there. You are afraid that if you stop explaining, the other person will never understand. They will walk away thinking they were right. They will construct a narrative where you were the problem and they will believe it. They will tell other people their version and nobody will ever hear your side. I understand that fear. It is real. It is valid. But here is what I want you to consider. Would you rather spend the rest of your life in a courtroom trying to convince one person of your innocence? Or would you rather step outside, breathe fresh air, and live a life that proves your worth without you ever having to say a word? Because the most powerful rebuttal to someone who refuses to see your value is not another argument. It is your absence. It is the sound of your footsteps walking away. It is the silence where your voice used to be. It is the empty space where your effort used to live. It is the slow, undeniable realization that hits them at 3 a.m. when they finally understand what they had, and it is already gone. But even if that realization never comes, even if they go their entire life without understanding what they lost, it does not matter, because your healing was never dependent on their awakening. Your peace was never conditional on their apology. Your growth was never waiting for their permission. The people who are truly meant to be in your life will never put you on trial for having feelings. They will never cross-examine your pain. They will never make you feel like asking for respect is a crime. They will notice when something is wrong without you having to write a thesis about it. They will adjust their behavior because your comfort matters to them, not because you threaten to leave, but because seeing you hurt is something they cannot tolerate. Those people exist. They are out there, but you will never find them if you are still sitting in that courtroom presenting case number 472 to a judge who stopped listening at case number 1. Stand up, gather your things, walk out, and do not look back to see if they noticed. Let your absence deliver the closing argument. Let your growth be the evidence they cannot ignore. Let your peace be the verdict that sets you free. And if they ever do come around, if they ever do realize what they lost, let them find you already healed, already whole, already living a life that no longer has a witness stand in the center of it, already loving yourself too much to ever sit in that chair again. You were never on trial. You never needed to defend yourself. You were always enough. The only thing that needed to change was your willingness to keep proving it to people who already had all the proof they needed and still chose to look the other way. So stop explaining. Stop defending. Stop arguing your case to deaf ears and closed hearts. Your worth is not a debate. It is a fact. And facts do not need defending. They just need someone brave enough to stand behind them. Be that person for yourself. Starting now. Part 6. Choose peace over attachment. I want you to think about something for a moment. Think about the last time you felt truly at peace, not distracted, not numbed out, not just busy enough to forget about your pain. I mean genuinely, deeply at peace. That feeling where your chest is not tight, your mind is not racing, and your heart is not bracing itself for the next wave of disappointment. Can you remember when that was? Was it last week, last month, last year? Or has it been so long that peace feels more like a concept you read about than something you actually experience? If it has been a while, I want you to consider the possibility that somewhere along the way you traded your peace for attachment. And you might not have even realized you were making that trade, because attachment does not announce itself. It does not knock on your door and say, "Hey, I am about to take over your emotional life and hold it hostage." No. Attachment sneaks in wearing the disguise of love. It shows up dressed in comfort, wrapped in familiarity, speaking the language of promises and memories and hope. And at first, it feels beautiful. Someone becomes important to you. You start looking forward to their messages. You start caring about their day. You start weaving them into the fabric of your daily thoughts until they become this thread you cannot pull without the whole thing unraveling. And that is fine. That is connection. That is human. But then something shifts, and the shift is so subtle you almost miss it. Their reply starts controlling your mood. If they respond quickly, your whole body relaxes. If they take hours, your mind spirals. If they are warm, you feel like the sun came out. If they are distant, you feel like winter moved into your chest. If they give you attention, you feel like you exist. If they withdraw it, you feel like you are disappearing. Have you ever felt that? That terrifying sensation of your entire emotional state being controlled by someone else's behavior? Where you wake up every morning and the first thing your brain does, before coffee, before brushing your teeth, before anything, is scan for evidence of whether this person still cares about you today? That is not love. I know it feels like love. I know it wears love's clothes and speaks love's language and lives in love's house. But it is not love. It is attachment. And the difference between the two will save your life if you let it. Love makes you free inside. Attachment makes you feel like you are suffocating without them. Love allows you to exist as a complete person who chooses to share their life with someone. Attachment makes you feel like you're only half a person who cannot function unless the other half is present. Love says, I want you in my life. Attachment says, I cannot survive without you in my life. And that small difference in language, it creates an enormous difference in how you live. So let me ask you directly, are you loving someone right now, or are you attached to them? And before you answer, let me help you figure it out. When you think about this person, do you feel calm or do you feel anxious? When you imagine your life without them, do you feel sad but okay? Or do you feel like the ground would collapse beneath you? When they disappoint you, do you address it and move forward? Or do you swallow it because you are terrified that speaking up might push them away? Your answers to those questions will tell you everything you need to know. And here is why this matters so much. Attachment has the power to turn the strongest, wisest, most self-aware person into someone they do not recognize. It can make you tolerate things you swore you never would. It can make you go back to places you promised yourself you would never return to. It can make you defend someone to your friends when deep down you know your friends are right. It can make you rewrite reality just to justify staying in a situation that is slowly dismantling everything you have built inside yourself. Have you ever done that? Looked your best friend in the eye and defended someone whose behavior you would never accept if it were happening to anyone else? Have you ever heard yourself making excuses for someone and thought, who even am I right now? When did I become the person who tolerates this? That is attachment talking, and attachment is the most convincing liar you will ever meet. It tells you that pain is just part of the process. It tells you that confusion is just a phase. It tells you that if you hold on a little longer, everything will magically transform into the love you have been imagining. It tells you that the good moments, those rare, beautiful, intoxicating good moments, are proof that the relationship is worth every ounce of suffering it causes. But let me offer you a different perspective. A few good moments scattered across a landscape of constant pain is not a love story. It is a pattern. And patterns do not change just because you wish they would. Let us talk about patterns for a minute, because this might be the most important thing you hear today. If someone hurts you in the same way more than twice, that is not a mistake. That is a method. If someone only becomes attentive when they sense you're about to leave, that is not love waking up. That is control noticing it is losing its grip. If someone apologizes beautifully every single time but never actually changes their behavior, those apologies are not expressions of remorse. They are tools of retention. They are designed to keep you close, not to make things better. Does that resonate with you? Have you been caught in that cycle? The one where you get hurt, you express your pain, they respond with just enough sweetness to pull you back in. Things are good for a few days, and then the same pattern repeats like a song stuck on a loop you cannot turn off. That cycle is attachment's favorite prison, and the bars are made of hope. Not real, grounded, evidence-based hope, but desperate hope. The kind that ignores every red flag because looking at them directly would mean admitting that what you want and what you have are two entirely different things. I want to tell you something, and I want you to really absorb it. You are not attached to this person as they are today. You are attached to who they were in the beginning. You are attached to the version that made your heart race in all the right ways. You are attached to the words they said when they were trying to win you over. You are attached to the blueprint of a future you designed together in those early, intoxicating conversations. You are attached to a ghost, and ghosts cannot hold you. They cannot warm you. They cannot build a life with you. They can only haunt you. And you deserve more than a haunting. You deserve a presence. So how do you choose peace over attachment? How do you untangle yourself from someone who has become so woven into your emotional fabric that pulling away feels like pulling out your own stitches? It starts with honesty. Brutal, unglamorous, uncomfortable honesty. Stop looking at this connection through the filter of what it used to be and start seeing it for what it actually is right now. Not what it was 6 months ago. Not what it could be if they changed. Not what it looks like in the highlight reel you keep replaying in your head. What is it right now, today, in this moment? Are you at peace? Or are you constantly managing anxiety? Are you growing? Or are you slowly shrinking to fit someone else's limitations? Are you being loved? Or are you being managed, controlled, and given just enough to keep you from walking out the door? These questions are uncomfortable, I know, and you might not like the answers, but the answers are trying to save you. Your own truth is trying to save you, and the only thing standing between you and your freedom is your willingness to listen. Here is what choosing peace actually looks like in real life. It is not dramatic. It is not cinematic. There is no background music and no slow-motion walk into the sunset. Choosing peace is messy and quiet, and sometimes it happens at 2 in the morning when you are staring at the ceiling and you finally whisper to yourself, "I cannot keep doing this." Choosing peace means you stop measuring a relationship by its best moments and start measuring it by its daily reality. Because anyone can be wonderful for one evening. Anyone can send a beautiful message after a fight. Anyone can show up with flowers after they have made you cry for the 3rd time this month. The question is not whether they can be good sometimes. The question is whether good is their baseline or their exception. Choosing peace means you stop calling anxiety love. You know that fluttery, unsettled, can't eat, can't sleep feeling? The one that romance movies taught you was passion? Sometimes it is not passion. Sometimes it is your nervous system screaming at you that something is wrong. Sometimes butterflies are not excitement. They are fear wearing a prettier name. Choosing peace means you stop calling waiting loyalty. Sitting by your phone for hours hoping someone will remember you exist is not loyalty. It is self-abandonment dressed up as dedication. Loyalty is mutual. It moves in both directions. If you are the only one being loyal, you are not in a partnership. You are in a performance. Choosing peace means you stop calling pain patience. "I am just being patient with them" is something we tell ourselves when we are too afraid to admit that what we are actually being is a doormat. Patience is beautiful when it is applied to someone who is genuinely trying to grow. But patience becomes self-destruction when it is applied to someone who is simply taking advantage of the fact that you will not leave no matter what they do. Can you feel the difference? Patience with purpose versus patience without boundaries. One leads to growth. The other leads to your slow disappearance. Now, I want to address something that comes up every single time someone considers choosing peace over attachment: the fear of regret. What if I leave and realize they were the one? What if I walk away and they change for the next person? What if I give up too soon? What if I never find anyone who makes me feel the way they did? These questions haunt people. They keep people stuck in situations that are clearly destroying them because the fear of making the wrong choice feels worse than the certainty of ongoing pain. And I understand that. The devil you know versus the devil you do not know, right? But let me reframe those questions for you. What if you stay and waste 5 more years waiting for a change that never comes? What if you keep forgiving and they keep taking? What if the person they become for the next person was always possible? They just did not value you enough to become it for you. And what if the feeling you are so afraid of losing was never love in the first place? What if it was just intensity, and real love is actually much calmer than anything you have experienced so far? That last question is the one that changes everything, because many people have never experienced peaceful love. The only love they know is the roller coaster kind. The highs are breathtaking and the lows are devastating, and the space between them is filled with anxiety and uncertainty and endless analysis. And because that is all they know, they mistake the turbulence for depth. They think, if it does not consume me, it must not be real. But what if real love is not supposed to consume you? What if real love is supposed to ground you? What if the calmest relationship you have ever been in was not boring? It was healthy. And what if the most chaotic relationship you have ever been in was not passionate? It was toxic? Sit with that for a moment. Let it rearrange some things inside you. Choosing peace will not feel natural at first, especially if chaos has been your normal. If you are used to the highs and lows, peace will initially feel flat. It will feel like something is missing. Your brain will interpret calm as boredom because it has been trained to associate love with adrenaline. But that is just withdrawal. That is your nervous system recalibrating. That is your heart learning a new language after spending years speaking the old one fluently. It takes time. It takes patience. Real patience. The kind you direct toward yourself. And it takes the willingness to sit in discomfort without running back to what felt familiar just because familiar felt like home. Familiar is not always home. Sometimes familiar is just a prison cell you have decorated to look comfortable. So here is what peace looks like on the other side. And I promise you, there is another side. One morning, and you will not see it coming, you will wake up and realize something is different. Not dramatically different, not fireworks and confetti different, just quietly different. You will reach for your phone and notice that the knot in your stomach is gone. You will move through your day without mentally replaying conversations or rehearsing arguments. You will laugh at something small and realize you cannot remember the last time laughter felt that light in your chest. You will notice that you are sleeping better, thinking clearer, breathing deeper. You will notice that the version of you that was constantly bracing for impact has started to relax. The hypervigilance has softened. The need to control outcomes has loosened its grip. You are not scanning for threats anymore because you have finally removed yourself from the war zone. And that feeling, that quiet, unspectacular, profoundly beautiful feeling is peace. Not the absence of pain, not the absence of memory, not the absence of love, just the presence of something you forgot existed, the presence of yourself, uncluttered, unburdened, unattached to outcomes you cannot control. Peace gives you back everything attachment stole: your focus, your confidence, your sleep, your appetite, your laughter, your ability to be present in a moment without wondering what someone else is doing or thinking or feeling about you. Peace gives you back your life. Attachment whispers, "Hold on tighter, even if it is cutting off your circulation." Peace whispers, "Open your hands and see what stays without being forced." Attachment asks, "What if you regret letting go?" Peace asks, "What if you regret never finding out who you are without them?" Attachment says, "They might change tomorrow." Peace says, "But who are they today?" Attachment says, "You will never find this again." Peace says, "Good, because what you had was not something worth finding twice." Let that last one sink in. Really let it land. Now, I want to be very clear about something. Choosing peace is not a one-time event. It is not a single decision you make on a Sunday night and then you are healed by Monday morning. It is a daily practice. Some days you will feel unshakable. Other days, the attachment will pull at you so hard you can feel it in your bones. You will miss them at inconvenient times. In the middle of a song, in the scent of something familiar, in the silence of a room you used to share. And when that happens, do not punish yourself. Do not interpret the missing as a sign that you made the wrong choice. Missing someone is not evidence that you belong together. It is evidence that you are human. It is evidence that what you had mattered to you, even if it was not healthy. It is evidence that your heart is capable of deep feeling, and that is a beautiful thing, not a weakness. You can miss someone with your whole heart and still choose not to go back. You can love someone from a distance. You can wish them well without wishing them back into your life. You can hold a memory gently without letting it hold you hostage. That is maturity. That is growth. That is the kind of emotional elegance that only comes from having survived something that nearly broke you and choosing to rebuild with better materials. Every single day that you do not go back to what hurt you, you are choosing peace. Every single night that you sit with the ache instead of numbing it with their attention, you are choosing peace. Every single moment that you resist the urge to check their profile, read their old messages, or craft the perfect text that will make them realize what they lost, you are choosing peace. And peace, I promise you, is worth every uncomfortable second it takes to get there. Because the life that is waiting for you on the other side of attachment is a life you cannot even imagine yet. It is lighter. It is calmer. It is yours in a way nothing has ever been before. And when the right connection finally does arrive, the one built on mutual respect instead of mutual desperation, you will understand exactly why every wrong one had to fall apart. Not to punish you, not to break you, but to prepare you for a love that does not require you to lose yourself in order to keep it. That love is coming. But first, you have to choose peace. Again and again and again, until peace stops being a choice and starts being who you are. Part 7. Build a life you are proud to wake up in. Let me paint a picture for you. Imagine waking up tomorrow morning and the very first thing you feel is not dread, not anxiety, Not that heavy sinking weight in your chest that comes from wondering whether someone thought about you last night. Not that desperate urge to grab your phone and check whether the person who has been slowly eroding your peace has finally decided to acknowledge your existence. Instead, imagine this. You open your eyes, and the first thought that enters your mind is, "This life I am building, it is mine, and I am proud of it." Can you imagine that? Can you feel what that would be like, even for a second? That quiet, grounded sense of waking up inside a life that does not depend on anyone else's mood, attention, or approval to feel meaningful? If that feels distant right now, if that feels like something that happens to other people, but never to you, I want you to know something. That feeling is not reserved for people who have it all figured out. It is not exclusive to people with perfect relationships or dream careers or flawless mental health. That feeling belongs to anyone who makes the decision, even a small, trembling, uncertain decision, to stop building their life around someone else and start building it around themselves. And that is exactly what we are going to talk about right now. Because the single most effective way to stop begging for love, attention, and validation from people who hand it out like it is rationed during a famine is to construct a life so full of purpose, peace, and self-respect that you simply do not have room for half-hearted connections anymore. But let me be real with you. Building that life, it does not start with some massive cinematic transformation. It does not start with quitting your job, moving to a new city, cutting everyone off, and reinventing yourself from scratch. That sounds great in a movie montage, but real life does not work that way. Real transformation starts embarrassingly small. So small that nobody notices. So small that even you might not notice at first. But these small shifts, these tiny daily decisions that seem insignificant in isolation, are the bricks that build the entire foundation of a life you can actually be proud of. It starts with how you begin your morning. And I know that sounds almost too simple to matter, but hear me out. What is the first thing you do when you wake up? Be honest. Do you immediately reach for your phone? Do you check messages, scroll through social media, scan for notifications like your worth is hiding somewhere inside someone else's reply? Do you start your day by measuring yourself against other people's highlight reels before your feet even touch the floor? Has that ever set a good tone for your day? Has starting your morning inside someone else's world ever made you feel more grounded in your own? Here is what I want you to try. Tomorrow morning, before you touch your phone, just breathe. Lie there for 60 seconds and breathe. Feel the fact that you are alive. Feel the weight of your body on the mattress. Feel the air entering and leaving your lungs, and remind yourself, out loud if you need to, that today is yours, not theirs. Not the person who ignored you, not the person who left, not the person who made you feel like you were never enough. Today belongs to you. Then get up, wash your face, drink a glass of water, open a window, let light into your space. These are not revolutionary acts. They are not going to change your entire existence overnight. But they are declarations of something powerful. They are you saying, with your actions instead of your words, I choose to take care of myself today. Even if nobody else does, I will. And do you know what that does over time? It rewires something deep inside you. When you start your day by attending to your own needs instead of orbiting someone else's attention, You gradually stop seeing yourself as an afterthought. You gradually stop treating your own life like a waiting room. You gradually start feeling like the main character in your own story instead of a supporting role in someone else's. Now let us talk about the bigger picture, because building a life you are proud of is not just about mornings. It is about how you spend your entire day, how you spend your energy, how you spend the hours that nobody sees. What are you working toward right now? And I do not just mean professionally. I mean in every area of your life. Are you learning something new? Are you developing a skill? Are you reading something that challenges the way you think? Are you building a habit that your future self will thank you for? Are you creating anything? A project? A business? A piece of writing? A healthier body? A more disciplined mind that exists independently of any relationship? Because here's what happens when your entire identity is wrapped up in another person. When they leave, and people do leave, not always because of you, sometimes just because life moves in unpredictable directions, you are left standing in the rubble of an identity that was never fully yours to begin with. You do not just lose them. You lose your sense of purpose. You lose your direction. You lose the answer to the question, who am I, when I am not somebody? And that question, who am I on my own, should never be terrifying. It should be exciting. It should be the most interesting question you ever get to answer, because the answer is entirely up to you. Nobody else gets to write it. Nobody else gets to edit it. Nobody else gets to approve or reject it. You get to decide who you are becoming. You get to decide what your days look like. You get to decide what you value, what you tolerate, what you pursue, and what you refuse to settle for. That kind of freedom is not something to fear. It is something to protect with everything you have. So start building. Start today, not tomorrow, not next week, not when you feel ready. Now, while your heart is still heavy, while your eyes are still puffy from last night, while your mind is still circling back to someone who does not circle back to you. Start building in the middle of the mess, because waiting until the mess is cleaned up before you start living is just another way of putting your life on hold for someone who is not putting theirs on hold for you. Read a book that has nothing to do with relationships. Take a class in something that has always interested you, but you never made time for because you were too busy making time for people who did not make time for you. Start cooking actual meals instead of surviving on whatever requires the least effort. Go outside and walk without a destination. Let your body remember what it feels like to move through the world with no agenda other than being alive. Start saving money, not because money is everything, but because financial stability gives you options, and options give you freedom, and freedom means you never have to stay in a situation, romantic, professional, or otherwise, simply because you feel trapped. Start writing, not for an audience, just for you. Write about what happened. Write about what you wish had happened. Write about who you were before you started shrinking yourself. Write about who you want to become now that you have decided to stop. Put the chaos in your head onto paper and watch how it loses some of its power when it is outside of you instead of rattling around inside you. Start setting boundaries, real ones, not the kind you announce dramatically and then abandon the first time someone pushes back. The quiet kind, The kind where you simply stop responding to messages that disrespect you. The kind where you stop canceling your plans because someone decided at the last minute that you are worthy of their time. The kind where you stop saying yes when everything inside you is whispering no. Have you ever noticed how difficult it is to say no to people when you have no life of your own to protect? When your schedule is empty, when your goals are vague, when your sense of self is dependent on external validation, saying no feels impossible because saying no might mean being alone. And being alone, when you have nothing to be alone with, is the thing you fear most. But when you start filling your life with things that matter to you, real things, tangible things, things you are building with your own hands and your own time and your own effort, suddenly saying no becomes easier. Not because you stopped caring about people, but because you finally started caring about yourself enough to recognize that your time and energy are not infinite resources to be distributed to anyone who asks. Your life is not a charity. You are not required to give pieces of yourself to everyone who shows up at your door looking hungry for attention. You are allowed to be selective. You are allowed to be intentional. You are allowed to look at someone and think, I like you, but you are not good for the life I am building, and then choose accordingly. That is not cold. That is clarity. And clarity, once you have it, is the most liberating thing you will ever experience. Now, let me talk about something that people rarely mention when they talk about building a better life. The in-between phase, the part that nobody posts about, the part that does not look good on social media, the part where you are doing all the right things and it still feels like nothing is changing. Because there will be days, maybe weeks, maybe even months, where you are waking up early, taking care of yourself, setting boundaries, building habits, working on your goals, and your heart still aches. You still miss them. You still check their profile, even though you swore you would not. You still lie in bed some nights wondering if you made the right call. You still have moments where the loneliness hits so hard you almost text them just to feel something other than silence. And in those moments, I need you to remember this. You are not failing. You are transitioning. And transitions are supposed to be uncomfortable. A caterpillar does not enjoy the cocoon. The process of becoming something new requires a period of being neither what you were nor what you are becoming. You are in that space right now, and it is uncomfortable, and it is disorienting, and sometimes it feels like it will never end. But it will end. One morning, and it will not be the morning you expect. Something will click. You will notice that you went an entire day without thinking about them. Not because you forced yourself not to, but because your day was so full of things that matter to you that there simply was not space for them anymore. You will realize that the ache in your chest has become quieter. Not gone, but quieter, manageable. A dull hum instead of a scream. You will realize that you are becoming someone you actually respect. Not perfect, not healed completely, not free of every scar, but someone who stopped running toward people who kept running away from them. Someone who stopped pouring from an empty cup. Someone who finally understood that building a life worth waking up for was not a luxury reserved for people with easy pasts. It was a necessity for anyone who refused to let their past define their future. That person, that version of you, they are worth every uncomfortable moment it takes to get there. So keep building, even when it is boring, even when it is hard, even when nobody notices, even when the progress is so slow you need a microscope to see it. Keep building, because one day, and this day is closer than you think, you're going to wake up in a life that feels like yours. Not a life you stumbled into because you were too afraid to leave the wrong relationship. Not a life that exists in the shadow of someone else's presence. Not a life where your mood depends on a notification. A life that you chose. A life that you built. A life that feels like home because you are finally in it. Fully, unapologetically, beautifully in it. And when you reach that day, you will understand something that no amount of words can teach you. You will understand that the greatest revenge against every person who ever made you feel like you were not enough is not anger. It is not bitterness. It is not proving them wrong. It is happiness. Quiet, genuine, hard-earned happiness. The kind that comes from knowing you survived the worst version of love and still chose to believe in the best version of yourself. Build that life, brick by brick, morning by morning, decision by decision, boundary by boundary. Build it until you are so proud of what you have created that the idea of dismantling it for someone who does not know your worth becomes laughable. Build it until you stop asking, "When will someone choose me?" and start saying, "I already chose myself, and that was the best decision I ever made." Part 8. Do not leave this world without loving your own life. And now we arrive at the thing I have been wanting to say to you since the very beginning of this conversation, the thing that everything else has been building toward, the thing that I hope stays with you long after you have finished listening to these words. One day, and neither you nor I knows when, this life will end, not as a threat, not as something to fear, but as a fact, a quiet, undeniable fact that sits beneath every single day you have ever lived and every single day you have left. And when that day comes, the question that will matter most is not who loved you. It is not who stayed. It is not who chose you, appreciated you, or understood you. The question that will matter most is this: did you love your own life? Did you love it? Not only when things were perfect, not only when you were surrounded by people who adored you, not only when everything was going according to plan. Did you love your life on the ordinary days? Did you love it on the difficult days? Did you love it on the days when nobody was watching, nobody was clapping, nobody was telling you that you mattered? Because here is the thing about this life you have been given. It does not wait for you to be ready. It does not pause while you figure out whether someone is going to come back. It does not slow down while you are sitting in that emotional waiting room, hoping for a message that might never arrive. It just keeps going, second by second, minute by minute, day by day. And every single one of those days that you spend waiting for someone else to make your life feel worth living is a day you will never get back. Let me say that one more time, because I think some of you need to hear it twice. Every day you spend begging for love from people who treat it like a favor they might grant if you behave well enough. That is a day stolen from the life you were supposed to be living, the life where you are present, the life where you are growing, the life where you are discovering what brings you peace and pursuing it without apology. I know what some of you are thinking right now, but you do not understand my situation. You do not know how deeply I cared about this person. You do not know how much they meant to me. You do not know how hard it is to just move on. And you are right. I do not know the specific details of your story. I do not know the name of the person who broke your heart, or the words they said, or the promises they made and shattered. But I do know this. You are still here. You are still breathing. You are listening to these words right now, and that means somewhere inside you, maybe buried beneath layers of pain and disappointment and exhaustion, there is a part of you that has not given up, a part of you that is still searching for a reason to try again. That part of you is the most important thing you have, more important than any relationship, more important than any person's opinion, more important than any memory you are holding on to. That tiny flickering spark inside you that says, maybe I can still build something beautiful. That is the seed of everything your life is about to become. But you have to water it. You have to protect it. You have to stop letting people who do not care about your garden come in and step on your seedlings. I want to ask you something, and I want you to answer honestly, even if nobody else can hear your response. How much of your life have you already given away? Not in years, in presence. How many mornings did you wake up and immediately give your first thought to someone who was not thinking about you? How many evenings did you spend analyzing a conversation instead of enjoying the sunset outside your window? How many weekends did you lose to sadness over someone who was probably out living their life without a second thought about yours? That is time you will not get back. And I am not saying that to make you feel guilty. I am saying it to make you feel urgent, because the clock does not stop ticking just because your heart is broken. And the world does not stop being beautiful just because one person failed to appreciate you. There are still mornings out there that would take your breath away if you were present enough to notice them. There are still conversations waiting to happen with people who will make you feel seen in ways you cannot even imagine right now. There are still places on this earth that would make you stop in your tracks and think, how did I not know this existed? There are still versions of yourself, stronger, wiser, more peaceful versions, that are waiting on the other side of this pain if you are brave enough to walk through it instead of setting up camp inside it. Your life is not a footnote in someone else's story. You are not a supporting character who exists only to make someone else's journey more interesting. You are the lead in your own story. And if the script has been painful lately, remember, you still hold the pen. You can write a different next chapter, not by erasing the pain, but by refusing to let it be the only thing on the page. So what does it look like to love your own life? Let me tell you what it does not look like first. It does not look like pretending everything is fine. It does not look like forcing a smile. It does not look like toxic positivity, where you paste motivational quotes over real wounds and pretend the bleeding has stopped. Loving your own life is not the absence of pain. It is the presence of a decision that says, even though I am hurting, I refuse to abandon myself. Even though someone left, I refuse to leave too. Even though my heart is broken, I refuse to stop living. Loving your own life looks like forgiving yourself, not for what someone else did to you, but for what you allowed, for staying too long, for ignoring the signs, for begging when you should have been walking, for giving your heart to someone who juggled it carelessly and then acted surprised when it hit the ground. You did not know better then, but you know better now, and that is not something to be ashamed of. That is something to be proud of, because the fact that you are here, learning, growing, listening to these words, means the pain did not win. You did. Maybe you do not feel like a winner right now. Maybe you feel bruised and tired and uncertain, but you are still standing, and standing after everything you have been through is victory enough. Loving your own life looks like giving yourself the things you kept waiting for someone else to provide. Validation. Give it to yourself. Tell yourself, I did my best with what I had, and that is enough. Attention? Give it to yourself. Put down the phone and pay attention to your own thoughts, your own body, your own needs for once. Care? Give it to yourself. Cook yourself a real meal. Go to bed at a reasonable hour. Schedule that appointment you have been putting off. Move your body. Rest your mind. You have been pouring into other people for so long that the idea of pouring into yourself might feel selfish. But it is not selfish. It is survival. It is the oxygen mask on the airplane principle. You cannot help anyone if you have already suffocated yourself trying to keep them breathing. Loving your own life looks like releasing people who have shown you repeatedly and clearly that they cannot love you the way you need. Not with anger, not with a dramatic goodbye, just with quiet acceptance. Accepting that some people are not villains. They are simply not your people. They are not bad humans. They are just bad for you. And recognizing that distinction is one of the most mature things you will ever do. You can love someone and let them go. You can wish someone well and never speak to them again. You can forgive someone without ever giving them another opportunity to need your forgiveness. Closure does not always come from a conversation. Sometimes closure comes from the moment you stop needing one. Have you ever considered that? That maybe the closure you keep chasing, that final conversation, that last explanation, that one acknowledgement of your pain, is actually just another form of attachment. Another reason to stay connected to someone you need to release. Another way your heart tricks you into maintaining a bond that your soul has been begging you to sever. Sometimes the most powerful closure is walking away without it, leaving the sentence unfinished, letting the question go unanswered, trusting that you do not need their final word to write your next chapter. Loving your own life also looks like being honest about who you were before this pain and being excited about who you are becoming after it. Because pain is not just destruction. Pain is also a teacher. And if you are willing to sit in the classroom instead of running from it, the lessons it offers are extraordinary. The heartbreak taught you what you will no longer accept. The rejection taught you that your worth was never in someone else's hands. The abandonment taught you that you are capable of surviving things you thought would end you. The silence taught you how to hear your own voice again. The loneliness taught you that your own company is not a punishment. It is a gift you had been too busy to unwrap. Every single painful thing you went through was not wasted. It was curriculum, and you are graduating from it right now, not with a diploma, not with applause, but with something far more valuable, wisdom that no one can take from you, and clarity that no one can confuse out of you. So do not leave this world without experiencing what comes next. Do not leave without knowing what it feels like to wake up and genuinely look forward to your own day. Do not leave without tasting the kind of peace that comes from having no one to chase, no one to beg, no one to prove yourself to. Do not leave without meeting the version of yourself that exists on the other side of this pain, the version that is calmer, stronger, wiser, and more deeply in love with their own existence than they ever thought possible. That version of you is not a fantasy. They are not a character in someone else's story. They are you, waiting, patient, ready, just on the other side of one decision, the decision to stop living for other people's love and start living for your own. Before this life is over, make sure you did something radical. Make sure you chose yourself, not once, not as a reaction to being hurt, but as a daily, intentional, sacred practice. Make sure you woke up at least some of those mornings and felt the weight of gratitude instead of the weight of someone else's absence. Make sure you built something, anything, that belonged to you and could not be taken away when someone decided to leave. Make sure you looked in the mirror at least once and said, without flinching, without qualifying it, without adding a "but, I am enough." Not "I am enough" if they would just see it. Not "I am enough but nobody seems to notice." Not "I am enough even though they left." Just "I am enough." Period. Full stop. No additional clauses required, because you are. You always were. The problem was never your value. The problem was where you were looking for confirmation of it. You were looking in someone else's eyes when you should have been looking in your own. So here's what I want you to carry with you after this, not as a quote you save and forget, not as a nice idea you agree with and never act on, but as a living, breathing truth that shapes how you move through the world from this point forward. Your life is not a waiting room. Stop treating it like one. Your heart is not an audition tape. Stop sending it to people who never asked to watch it. Your worth is not a question. Stop treating it like one that needs answering by anyone other than you. Your peace is not negotiable. Stop putting it on the table every time someone shows you a little bit of attention. You were not put on this earth to spend your years chasing people who make you feel small. You were put here to grow, to heal, to learn, to become, to build something meaningful with the time you have been given, to discover that the love you kept searching for in others was sitting inside you the entire time, waiting for you to stop looking outward long enough to notice. Love your life, not because it is perfect, not because everything worked out the way you planned, not because all the right people stayed. Love it because it is yours. Love it because you survived things that tried to break you. Love it because you are still here, still fighting, still hoping, still capable of becoming something extraordinary. Love it because one day it will end. And when it does, the only opinion about your life that will truly matter is the one you held about it yourself. So make that opinion a good one. Make it an honest one. Make it the opinion of someone who stopped begging, stopped chasing, stopped shrinking, and finally started living. Your life is waiting for you. It has been waiting this whole time. Through every tear, every sleepless night, every unanswered message, every broken promise, your life has been standing right there, arms open, saying, whenever you are ready, I am here. Are you ready? Because I think you are. I think you have been ready for longer than you realize. All that is left is to take the first step, and then the next one, and then the one after that, not toward someone else, toward yourself. That is where your story truly begins, not when someone chooses you, not when someone stays, not when someone finally sees your worth. Your story begins the moment you choose yourself, the moment you decide that your life, this wild, messy, painful, beautiful, one-time only life, is worth loving. So love it. Starting now, starting here, starting with this breath and this heartbeat and this moment that will never come again. Do not leave this world without loving your own life, because it is the only one you have got, and it deserves someone who is willing to fight for it. That someone is you. It was always you. Now go build the life that proves it.